All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MicDrop Podcast. It's your boy Alex Fordu. Follow us on all social media. Links will be down in the description down below. We got a special guest in the building, T'era Grayson. Say what's up to the people.
Hi.
How you doing? How you doing? All
Really
right,
good.
King, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, shout out to everybody that's been supporting the podcast recently. You feel me? We just hit 100. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Slight, it's something slight. We getting there. We getting
For
there.
sure. Make sure
Progress.
you guys go support the Instagram too. We on the way to 200 on Instagram. You guys can follow me. I just started Twitch streaming, so you guys
Okay,
can
okay.
happy with me
Content
on Twitch.
creator. All right. How are you doing? Fuck it. Fuck the intro. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm glad to be here. It's been a really crazy few months. We've been traveling all over, so we finally are a little more stable, I think, for the time being, and so it's been nice to just relax for a second. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. So I guess we'll start off by asking just give us like a backstory on like where you're from, what got you into music and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm from Los Angeles, and I've lived all over. I've lived in New York and Florida and Colorado. I also lived out of the country in South Africa, and right now I'm currently in Southern East Europe in a country called Montenegro. It's very small, but it's really beautiful. Um, so I've been involved in music my whole life. My mom and my dad were both in the entertainment industry. Um, my dad was a professional boxer and my mom was a casting director. So I kind of just grew up in TV and entertainment and all of that from a young age. And I always loved music. Um, I'm trying to give you like a short version because it's really long. But
Yeah.
so I went to school in Hollywood and I worked on TV, two different TV shows. One of them got canceled before they aired. And the other one was The Last OG with Tracy Morgan. And for that one, I went to New York. And so I was working in Brooklyn for that season. And I got to meet some really legendary, hip hop heads from like Rakim to Method Man and Eric B. And so it was
Okay.
just like,
Rakim, our favorite
wow,
rapper.
OGs, the
Yeah.
OGs.
yeah, like which was crazy because it was in Brooklyn. So it was like a very full circle moment. Um, so that was kind of, I think, where things started getting a lot more serious in terms of actually starting to land gigs and stuff like that. I had always been singing, but at that point, I was running, I had co founded and was kind of like the vice president of an independent record label. And so at that point, I was helping to develop 8 different artists and starting to get placements for their songs and stuff on TV. So we got a few placements on TV and some different networks. And then from there, I ended up deciding I needed to kind of create my own path. And so I created a creative boutique called Mob City Universe. And I'm the founder, and my husband is co-founder. And my husband, that's a whole long story, but we were working together in the other label as well. And we met in school in Hollywood. So we've been working together for years. And then we decided, oh, wait, we really like each other. And it was like a whole thing. And
Mhm.
so we got married. But we started this company called Mob City Universe. And it's a creative boutique. So basically, we do artist management, but we also do like all of the sound needs for like commercials and audio, and ads and things like that. So we'll do sound design, voiceover work, bespoke like custom music, all of that kind of stuff. And so right now, that's currently what we're doing is we're working on this creative boutique, and we've been able to kind of forge our way in this side of the industry. It's very, very hard, but we've had some
Definitely.
success. So we're pretty motivated, and we're the kind of people that literally can't stop until we get where we're going. So
So
excited to see what happens.
when you guys are traveling around to like all these different countries, what is it exactly that you guys are like doing? Like, are you guys trying to find new talent? Like, are you guys working with different brands? Like,
Right. So right now we actually decided, so we had a permanent place in New York and our lease was coming up for the next year. And we were like, with everything that happened with the pandemic and just how locked in we were as creatives, we were like, we really feel like we need to take the opportunity to not have to worry about a lease somewhere and we can just go because we can work remotely. So we decided to put all our stuff in storage and to just start traveling for culture. And so we've been working through a lot less touristy areas. I've been to a lot of touristy spots, but we really wanted to focus on more culturally rich areas that haven't been tapped as much. And the areas that are harder to work in, people that speak less English and you don't understand the signs. And we wanted to kind of force ourselves to reconnect culturally in a way that's not really catered to us and to kind of force our way into a new perspective. So that's what we've been working on recently, is just really working through different countries and seeing the history, because, these countries are thousands of years old versus
Right.
the United States, so it's like a really huge perspective shift, because you see family, you meet people that's like, oh, my family's been in this one town for 1,000 years. And you're like, what does that mean? Like, you built this, like that's your family built these homes, like that's crazy. And seeing like the beauty in art and how it's changed over the course of time. And also as an executive in entertainment, you also need to know, like, outside of America, how is art and entertainment connecting in other cultures? So like what might be popping off and going crazy in the United States, you go to another country and they've never heard of the person. They're not even on that social network.
Right.
It's a whole different ball game. And so it's really good to kind of force yourself to get out of that box that you're so comfortable with if you really do want to reach like on a wider scale. So that's been our focus, is like connecting with talent and art and culture in a way that will kind of force us to expand out and keep the hunger alive as a creative.
Right. Yeah, I always look at entertainment and art and music as kind of like the roots to a tree. You feel me? Like as you keep going down, the branches keep dividing.
Right.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of cool to see, because I've been to Africa too. So like there's so many different styles and like types of music, and it's all like even within like neighboring like towns and cities. There's so many different traditions, and then you come to
Right.
America and you kind of see little bits of those influences within our music and our entertainment. So it's always cool to like travel and see that side of music and art.
Yeah, absolutely. What part of Africa did you go to?
So my family's actually West African. So I was in Senegal this last summer. So it was
Oh,
pretty cool. I hadn't been in like almost 10 years. So it was a pretty nice
wow.
experience. Yeah.
That's
So you said
amazing.
you're in what, where are you again right now?
I'm in Montenegro.
Okay.
So if you think of where Greece is at, right above that is Albania. And if you keep going along the coast, right above that is Montenegro. So we're like a ferry boat ride 8 hours away from Italy. We can literally just go across the Adriatic Sea and we're in Italy.
Okay.
It's not very well known, which is
Y'all
why
be
I kind of
everywhere.
love it.
Okay,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's cool.
So,
What school? What was the name of the school that you guys met at in Hollywood?
okay. So we went to the Los Angeles Film and Recording School. So it was right on Sunset Boulevard. And it's a very unique school.
Unique in a good
Uh,
way or a bad way?
uh, you know, uh, maybe in the middle. Yeah, I definitely learned some things that were crucial to where I'm at now. And I'm really grateful definitely for going there, because I wouldn't have my husband. So, but yeah, it was kind of a stepping stone, because I was originally going to go to Pepperdine, and I already had like my submissions taken care of, and I had all of my transfer credits, and I was literally ready to just transfer over. And I was like, for some reason, this doesn't feel like the right step for me. I was wanting to get like a business degree, and I don't know. It's just one of those things. I'm very intuitive focused. So if something doesn't feel like it clicks or it connects well, I don't force it and I don't try to reason with it. I'm like, for whatever reason, this doesn't feel right, I'm just going to listen to that. So that's kind of how I've been basing my decisions. It's like, where does my spirit feel called or led to go? And for some reason, it just didn't line up, which is crazy because it's such a beautiful school, and it's in Malibu and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I was like, this doesn't seem the right step for me. So I ended up at LA Film School, and I got a little associate's degree in music production because this was a long time ago, but I wanted to learn more about like Logic and stuff like that, because I knew piano and things like the composition side of music, but I didn't really understand like DAWs and things like that. So I was like, let me develop that side so that when I am in the studio with artists and I'm working with them, I can actually communicate in the correct language. And that was kind of my priority, was making sure that I wasn't just like, oh, I have a good idea, but that I actually have some knowledge and like a foundational basis that I can work with, different musicians in different capacities. So that was kind of the reason for going, but I've expanded way more beyond that, which is really cool. It was a good stepping stone.
That's awesome. Yeah. What label were you on beforehand? You said you managed or were like on a label with 8 other artists or something like that?
Yeah, so I actually was a co-founder of an independent record label. It was called Roll Records, ROL Records. And we had a total of 8 artists. We were only focused on pushing and developing 2, but we had 8 that we were in the process of developing. And they were from all over. We had some of them were from LA, from Texas, Colorado. Okay.
The Davion?
Yeah, he just got back. He actually was just buying studio like desk equipment. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we had 8 different artists from in different places that we were helping to develop. And we had some really cool opportunities. We got not a publishing deal. It was, we had an imprint deal that we were in the middle of negotiating, and we were working with a sync library, not a library, but it's like a sync company that they really liked the type of music that we did. So we were able to sign with them to pitch for commercials and things like that. So it was a good little head start, but and the end of 2020 is when I was like, I feel like I need to take a risk and go a different path. And it was very nerve-wracking, and it was hard because I put everything I had into that label. But it was, again, one of those things that I felt like I really need to change my direction now.
Did the pandemic have anything to do with that?
No, actually, surprisingly not. It had nothing to do with the pandemic. I think it was just more of a creative direction difference. And I take it so seriously when it comes to having integrity in your art. And if you don't feel a conviction for the direction a project is going, or you don't have the same vision for it, then it's important to be honest about that, And so I was in a position where I was a vice president. And so I, out of respect, for the executives above me, I had to realize and come to terms with myself, like, you okay? The desk.
Yeah, you're good.
So I had to make sure that I was honest with myself and with the executives. Like, I think we have different visions, and that's okay. So I wish you guys the best, and we were able to part with like a lot of love, and we support each other. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's cool. What are some of like the most slept on or underrated things about being in the music industry from what you've experienced so far? Like that you would, either give advice to up and coming artists, executives that are freshly into it? Like what are some key things that they should know?
I would say the first thing is you have to lay out your priorities. So, I think everybody kind of wraps the ideas of what they want all together in like a big box of like, I want to be a celebrity, or I want to be a successful musician, but then they don't get detailed about what that means, And so then if they're ever faced with a possibility or an opportunity, they don't actually know how to navigate it because they're kind of ambiguous about their goal. So I would say the most important thing is to really come to terms with what you actually want. What is your goal as a musician and as an up and coming artist? And what do you intend to accomplish with your gift? Because it's really easy to get distracted by money, and it's really easy to get distracted by fame. But if that's all that you're focused on, you're probably not going to succeed, just honestly, So I think the most unspoken conversation in this area is developing a goal within yourself that has a core connection to who you are. And it's not just this ambiguous, I want to be the next Michael Jackson. I want to but actually having a core goal that resonates with you and your talent. And then being able to put that as your this is, no matter what happens, this is what I have to focus on. And it helps kind of like guide you as a compass to not, compromise on your morals or compromise on your convictions. Because, when you start to get recognition and you start to get given opportunities, they all look very shiny. And I've had to decline on a few really amazing opportunities just because they didn't line up with something that I really was convicted on. And I ended up gaining respect from some of the directors they're very successful, but they were like, I actually respect you for that decision because you're not being swayed by the promise of fame and money. You're sticking to your convictions. So, I would say that's probably the most important thing. There's a lot of things on the business side that we can talk about, but I would say that's the most important as a person.
So we get a lot of like independent artists that come on here and they basically talk about like their experiences like coming up and trying to get attention from like major like record labels and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think? And a lot of them actually like we get a good amount that are pretty opposed to signing like record deals if they were given the opportunity. What do you think with all the access that artists have nowadays to like push their own stuff or go viral on TikTok or basically market themselves? What do you think is the thing that labels can do for artists that they can't do for themselves with all the resources available to artists right now?
Okay. I love this question. I managed a TikTok influencer, right? He 1.8 million followers. Like he was really killing the game. He popped off from rap remixes of popular songs in 2020. And he was like really, doing his thing. And I managed him for a few months. I think it was about 6 months or so. It wasn't that long. And we were able to work on, brand deals and like helping to get him some more money on the back end to help support him in his career, right? And one thing that we noticed with him, he had a huge following. I'm talking like what people strive for, right? He's in the millions. And at the same time, it was so difficult to get interest in his music. So he was getting a ton of interest on his remixes of popular songs. But when it came to his music, he had like 1 or 2 that really took off. And the rest were good. Like there were good numbers for an independent artist, but it wasn't what he wanted, right? And the problem is a lot of people think that, TikTok is going to make me famous and I'm going to be a #1 hit on the top 100. And that's literally a miracle. That's a miracle, right? Like even if we look at Lil Nas X, that didn't happen because of TikTok. That happened because of his remix with a huge country artist, right? And a lot of PR and signing with a label. That's how he got onto those charts. That wasn't just him on Twitter. That wasn't just him on TikTok.
And even if you look at like some of the newer guys, like Yeet, I don't think he's solely had a #1 song based off like
this man loves mentioning.
We always bring him Yeet. Well, I'm just saying, I feel like he's a good example for the situation because I don't think he's had a #1 solely off the strength of TikTok.
Right. And I think the important thing to realize here is that with major labels, they controlled the market forever. Like literally, they controlled the industry forever. And so they have a level of distribution that an independent artist can only dream of, just to be honest with you, right? So yeah, we can get on CD Baby, we can get on TuneCore, we can get on United Masters, whatever it is, and we can upload our music and we're getting out onto like the main streaming platforms, right? But there's a whole nother side to distro that independent artists don't have access to. So somebody that I really love watching is Toby Nwigwe. I think that's how you say his last name. But are you guys familiar with him? He did like the whole Mint tour.
Yeah.
I don't honestly really know.
I think he is Nigerian.
Yeah. And he raps with his wife and he's got his kids always with him.
Yeah.
And he's independent, right? He made some crazy moves as an independent artist. Like he is doing his thing, right? And he is not selling out. And I think the important thing to learn from him is it takes a lot of work and a lot of business mentality. Like you can't just be a good artist and you can't just be good at business. You have to be good at both, right? And then when you have both of those, you have to have a lot of money. Like it takes a lot of money to break an artist, which is why major labels are such a good incentive, because they have the money, they have the network, they have the PR team, they have everything to break an artist, right? So I know right now a lot of artists are like, oh, I want to own my masters. That's the most important thing.
I was
And
going to
I
ask you
agree.
that.
I agree. It is important. It's important to own your art. I'm a huge advocate for artists owning their art. That's my thing, right? At the same time, you have to have leverage. You have to have leverage, right? So like, I know like a lot of these artists think that they're like literally the best thing to walk the earth. And it's important to have confidence, but you have to have leverage as an artist if you want to get a good deal when you're talking to a major. Right. So, and a lot of people think that leverage is just good numbers, but that's only a little part of it, because right now, a lot of people don't even know this. A lot of majors are using streaming farms to get their new artists' numbers up. So like numbers isn't just the thing that you focus on when we talk about leverage. I'm talking about, can you sell out a show? Because I'm here in Europe right now, right? So I'm in Montenegro, and me and my husband, we were, I think it was actually in Belgrade in Serbia. And we saw all of these crowds like walking down this like pedestrian pathway all the way across the street in through a park that kind of looked like a mini version of Central Park, right? There's like a fortress, like literally like a castle, old fortress that they're walking through. And we're just seeing these crowds, just literally hundreds of people. And we're like, okay, where's everyone going? So we're like, let's just follow. So we just got up and we just started walking with the crowd to see where everyone was going. And we found this kind of like overlooking hill that we went and we like snuck and crossed over this thing and sat on the hill. And as we looked over, there was this huge concert that was happening, right? Like huge, right? Like tons of lights, like great stage and like all these food vendors. And it was like a big old production. And we were like, what is this? So we start like Shazamming like this music because we don't understand the language or whatever. So we're like, what is this? And we find the artist and we go to the artist page. On Instagram, this artist has literally 1,000 followers, like literally, right? And when I say every person in the crowd knew the words, every person, and I'm talking like thousands of people were in this crowd. I was like, what is like, how is this?
He had 1,000 followers on IG or
on Instagram. And he had everybody in the audience singing this song and with their hearts. And they were just like, didn't skip a beat. And so I was like, I need to reconsider what I thought I knew about social media, because right now, the United States really is so good at creating facades. It is a master at really making you want to think something. If they want to make you think something, they're going to make you think it, right? So I'm sitting here, I'm not in the country. My VPN on my phone is getting ads from Europe. I'm like completely removed from the United States, okay? And I'm seeing now the complete shift when it comes to how artists are successful here. And I'm like, okay, on paper, if this guy were to go to a major in America, he would get laughed at before he even entered the door because he didn't have the numbers on paper, right? On social media networks. But I'm watching him rock an entire concert of people that are completely in love with this person. And so that kind of helped me realize that social media is a really great tool in certain instances, but it's not the say all be all. And I think it's very hard to remember that, especially in the United States, because everything is so hyper activated by social media, right? It's like 24/7, you're on some type of social network. And so when you step outside of it for a second and realize that there's so many countries that aren't even on board like that, with extremely successful artists that are making a living and selling out shows. And so when I think about independent artists and I think about them wanting to sign, but then wanting to keep their masters and then all of these different caveats, I'm like, you just need to know that you have leverage. If you can sell out a show and you can, pay for a videographer to come and prove that you just sold out a show, that people are literally singing all of the words to your songs, that's the leverage that is going to get a music label's attention. Social media can only get you so far. So you have to be business oriented, like actually money wise. Like, how are you going to actually prove that you can make money for the label? Because if you make them believe you, then they're willing to negotiate on a contract.
Yeah,
Right.
you have to
because
be a
that's all it really
profitable
comes
artist.
down to at the end of the day. Like, can you make them money?
You have to be a profitable artist, especially
But it's
for
just
the majors.
the way we see that in America, especially with social media. Like, you're right, it's a facade.
Yeah. Even with like some artists that have kind of like the perception of them is like they fell off. They're the first ones to go to Europe and tour.
Facts.
Like Lil
I'm
Pump just
telling
did a
you.
tour. Like I think I don't know what country in Europe, but Lil Pump is doing really, really good in
Oh
Europe.
yeah, I'm sure in Germany. Like I'm gonna be really honest with you guys. I'm sitting at the cafe, you know, out here, and it's like 90s, like Britney Spears and NSYNC and all of this stuff on the radio, and I'm like, what? Like I don't know the last time I heard this on the radio. Like maybe a playlist. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So what the heck? Like it just was like a huge wake up call. And then also, I'm just gonna put this out there. For when it comes to like worldwide success, you gotta have stuff that can play like publicly. like I'm not gonna say family friendly because that can be corny, but like you gotta have some type of music that can play across all markets. You know, if all of your music is explicit, you're not going to be able to get like auto playlisted, right? Because there's radio stations that are all based off of algorithms and then people just put it up in their stores. So if you've got all this metadata in your songs that's talking about it's explicit and it's has this kind of content and all this stuff, you're blocking yourself out from a huge part of a market, you know? And so this kind of ties back into the first conversation of what's your goal as an artist. So if you're trying to be a Michael Jackson style artist, like that's,
and he's a one of one.
a one of one. Like
not even Mike, but like I feel like Drake is a really good example of that because he doesn't always rap about like, you know, family friendly shit, but he makes it digestible to the point where it's just up to your own perception of how you want to view what he's talking about.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. And actually, you know, this was actually surprising because out here we haven't heard any Drake, and we've been out of the country for 5 months.
That's crazy.
Wow. That's
literally
crazy.
Like the first time that we got asked anything about Drake was like 3 weeks ago, and Davion was performing at a small event, and they asked if he could do like a rap over a Drake track, and that was the first time we heard anything about Drake. We were like,
not even this new Honestly Nevermind shit. You didn't hear any of that out in Europe
about what?
From the new album Honestly Nevermind?
None of that. No, nothing. I had to go and
really
find
is a
it.
Facade. That's crazy.
Crazy.
No, it really is. Like even so the only thing that I've heard recently from like the American charts, because I'm following all the charts, so I'm like making sure even if I don't hear it out here, I know what's happening. Was Break My Soul, Beyonce. That was the only one that I was actually hearing on the radio, like when I went to the mall and things like that. And then everything else, because you have to remember Europe is like dance central, right? Dance, electronic music, house, So it's a lot more of that style of music. And so you have to have a really good hip hop track to be able to break through the radio.
Not even sticky
here.
That's crazy.
No.
That's crazy.
So what do you think? Oh, my bad. Are you? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, like, so I know you manage Davion and stuff. What are some of like the biggest hurdles or challenges in managing an artist that a lot of people that are trying to get into that, like, they don't really understand until they've actually done?
Hurdles in what area?
Like, as far as like financially making sure like y'all are on the same mindset as far as like how they want to go about their career, getting deals, stuff like that.
I would say the biggest hurdle, first of all, is being able to determine when you should be getting a manager. A lot of artists, and this is actually why I stopped managing Biddle, it just was not the right timing. And I think a lot of times people don't realize what a manager's responsibility is. They kind of convolute it and mix it up with an agent. And so that can cause a lot of issues. And I've seen it happen on multiple occasions, right?
What's the difference?
Okay, great question. So the difference between a manager and a booking agent. So you've got different ranges of managers. You've got a personal manager, you've got a business manager, you've got an estate manager. It depends on what level of your career that you're in. But in general, what a manager does is they manage all of your ongoing projects, and they help keep things organized and make sure that all of the deals that are being negotiated and everything is actually according to books. Like, so make sure, if I know that a part of Davion's package, right, something that was negotiated by his agent, if I know that there's something missing, then it's my responsibility to go make sure that thing it happens, that he gets his end of the deal, basically. But my job is not to negotiate that deal. That's where the agent comes in. And so if you're talking about the California market and you're talking about the New York market, it gets really slimy. Because artists will want managers to be an agent, and then the manager will overstep and become an agent for them. And a lot of the time what happens is the artist will get greedy and they will go and they'll sue the manager. And then the courts in California will take the side of the artist. And then the manager will have to pay back all the money that they were paid, their 20% commission. They'll have to pay that money back to the artist because they weren't supposed to be acting as an agent. And so a lot of people don't know that that's a thing that happens, but it's a really nasty thing that happens. And so as a manager, you want to make sure that you protect yourself, because I'm a person that will give my all, but I also have to know that there's other people out there with different agendas. So when it comes to being a manager, your sole job is to make sure that everything runs like clockwork for your artist, and that you alleviate as much pressure as possible so the artist can be the artist. Let him have the freedom and the flexibility in his mind to create and do art. That's his goal. That's his job, right? Your job is to make sure that he doesn't have to worry about anything and that he has the freedom in his mind to focus on his art. An agent's responsibility is making sure that they can find gigs and get the artist paid. So what an agent does is kind of like market out the artist, right? They're going to go find venues. They're going to talk to promoters. They're going to go and try to find, all the way down to right now what's happening online with getting playlisted, like any way to get this artist exposure and to get them paid. That's the agent's responsibility. And if you have a good agent, then they already have connections for up and coming artists, right? So for example, CAA is a huge agency, right? And they're responsible for filling out a lot of the big festivals like Coachella and Rolling Loud and like all of that kind of stuff, right? So if you're signed with somebody like them, their sole responsibility is to make sure that you get that kind of exposure. So if there's a big headliner that might be within your genre, then that agent's going to make sure that they can go and try to get you as an opening act or get you a small 15-minute set or something, right, to try to get you introduced to that fan base. So an agent's responsibility is making sure that they can get you jobs and get you paid and negotiate the best deal for you. So the manager doesn't negotiate, the agent does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I understand that. That makes sense now.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
I was going to ask. I want to add one more thing. That's why it's so important as an independent artist to make sure it's the right timing to get a manager and the right timing to get an agent. Because if you decide, I'm taking this seriously, I'm going to go get a manager now, that doesn't mean that it's the right time. So you're going to have to start paying them out on things. And if you're not making enough money, it's going to start hurting you really fast, right? And the same thing goes for an agent. Agents also get commission. So you're going to just start bleeding money without necessarily needing to. And if you have a good manager and a good agent, they'll tell you it's not the right time. I think you need to focus on what you're doing a little bit longer, and then I'll come in and I'll join you later. So it's all about timing. If you're not in a situation where you're in over your head with managing things that are happening for you, then you have no reason to consider getting a manager. It's not going to help you with distribution. It's not going to help you with promotion and marketing. So
you think an agent is what people should go for first when they're up and coming?
First is a hard thing to say. It really just depends on you as an artist. So for example, I know Davion's strengths and I know his weaknesses as an artist, right? So he might be really good at organizing events, or he might be really good at keeping his schedule together. So then in that case, it might be better for him to go for an agent first, because I know that he'll be able to get these gigs from the agent and he'll keep them organized and he won't miss anything. And he'll be able to start booking gigs. But if he's got like a bunch of brand deals that he's already getting on his own because he knows how to do that part, right? Let's say he knows how to pitch himself and he already knows how to get the gigs, but he has a hard time keeping it organized and he needs help with representation on that side, then I would say to get a manager. So it depends on the artist and literally where they are in their career. And you have to just think of what each person contributes to your team and then look at what you're missing immediately. Like, what is the immediate thing that needs to be filled? And then get that one first and then keep growing from there.
Okay.
Oh, he's dropping gems. Okay. I'm learning a lot.
The first thing might be a marketing, like a marketing team. Like that might be the best thing for you to do before a manager or an agent, you know? So it really just depends on what you are having trouble outsourcing and getting done yourself, and then do that.
Okay. So I know you talked about it a little bit already, but like, what was like the main thing that kind of sparked the idea of creating this Mob City universe? And, you know, what are like all of the services that you provide over there?
Right. So Mob City Universe is like my little baby. We founded it in Brooklyn, and I think it's fitting because it's called Mob City. But we founded it in Brooklyn, and we kind of have the influence of the West Coast. And so it's a really beautiful, I think, blend of the West and the East Coast, because we're like very like, oh, you know, let's make it happen. Like we can work with you on your budget and we can, you know, get to your deadline exactly how you want. We're really chill on that side. But then we also have this like really gritty side that's like, we know our value and we know our worth. And I'm very protective over creatives and artists. And so if I ever feel like somebody is getting played or manipulated, then Davion says the pit bull comes out, and there's a side of me that just does not, I literally don't play with that. So it's a really good blend, because I want everybody that, because we're building our roster out right now. And so we have different producers that we're working with. And it's just we call it a universe for a reason, because we're going to really make this really big.
I was going to ask you, do you plan on adding like new signees and new people to your?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So right now we're basically, you know, focused on just kind of creating a good portfolio and like building good accounts and clients, you know, and relationships in that way. And at the same time, we're constantly talking with new artists, producers, musicians, session players, like anybody, and creating those contacts that we know, like, hey, we've got a great deal with, you know, Coca-Cola. Can we come and talk to you? Are you available? And helping to, I guess, expand our network in that way. And so I think right now, like our main priority is just developing the clientele, you know, and creating that portfolio and kind of creating a reputation for our company. That's like the first step.
So it was founded by you and it was co-founded by him, right?
Yeah. So I founded it, and it's funny because he always had a dream of having his own company that does voiceover and like animation, acting, that kind of thing. And I always wanted that division in this company. And so we were both like, well, why don't we just merge? And we'll just, because he already started having his own client base too. So it was like, okay, well, let's just merge it together and kind of make this umbrella of Mob City Universe. And then we'll have our own little, you know, sections underneath it, depending on what we get into. So we'll have a whole artist management subsection, and kind of break it out that way.
That's cool.
I was going to ask, what's your opinions on this? Because apparently, I can't remember what label it was, but they created like an AI rapper. Like, I guess like they're using like a cartoon or whatever, some type of, you know me,
got dropped after 2 days. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What was his name? The AI rapper, it starts with a W.
Something Mecca, I think.
Mecca something. Yeah.
But what
yeah.
are your opinion? Do you think that's the future of music?
AI taking over. The metaverse is here.
Crazy.
Okay. So here's what I think. Are you talking about in the United States, or are you talking about the whole world?
I mean, anyway, I feel like we've already low-key seen examples of that done and shown to be successful with like the Gorillas. And I mean, you can say, I guess MF Doom had the whole mask thing going on where he didn't want to show. Like, how do you feel about just labels creating artists and kind of pushing them out?
Yeah, we've already seen this in a different genre more, right? So we've already seen this with Marshmello, you know, we've already seen this with sorry, I'm losing all of my words, but we've seen this more in electronic music where there's like this alter ego personality, you know.
Dead Mouse.
And now it's Dead Mouse, thank you. And now it's crossing over into hip hop. It's going to probably cross over into pop. It's going to probably, you know, just keep making its
Afrobeats.
way over more and more and more. You made, yeah,
Have an
right.
AI burner board.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting idea. I don't know how much longevity it will have if there's no fan connection created. And I think that's why the metaverse is such a key component, because the more people start getting into the metaverse in terms of an everyday like hangout, you know, I think that is going to be the caveat to creating that connection and fostering that connection between the fans and the artist. At this point, the metaverse everything is still so new, right? And it's kind of niche right now. So it's kind of like those who like are obsessed with it are like running and sticking with it. And then in the other main world, people are kind of like, I don't know if I care yet, you know? So I think there's a lot of things that are still left to figure out. It's a great idea, I think, to have an AI artist. I think the possibilities with it are endless. It literally is endless what you can do. I think the most important thing is not losing the human connection. That at the end of the day, we are literally, our souls are created for that human connection. And eventually we'll get tired of not having it. So if there's a way to blend the two, I think it could work very well.
Okay. I agree. I definitely agree.
Are you like pro or against like the whole post-hominous albums? Like I know the Pop Smoke's record label, they dropped like 2, I think, with Egg. So how do you feel about that stuff?
I think I don't have the right to decide if it's right or not. It's up to the artist's wishes.
Okay.
So if it's something that the artist wanted and they wanted to make sure that no matter what happened to them, that they wanted their music out there, then go for it. I think the thing that crosses the line is if there wasn't any explicit conversation and it's more of a greedy money move on the label's behalf, you know, and like the family's estate wasn't really contacted or consulted. That to me is just disgusting. So that's kind of how I feel. It really depends on what the artist wanted with their music. No matter what the content of the music is, you can really feel the authenticity from an artist, right? So whether you agree with what the song is talking about or not, if it came from their soul, then it's a part of them. And it's something that needs to be respected regardless. Even if it can make you a ton of money or not, it needs to be treated like it's part of the human being that it came from. So I got a little deep, but I take it very seriously.
No, I feel you. I think your connection is tripping. Oh, he left. No. Okay. Well, let me see. I was gonna ask one more question. Okay, so do you feel what challenges do you face coming up in the music industry as like a woman? Do you feel like it's hard to find people that take you seriously?
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And it's
Speak
so
on it.
unfortunate.
Yeah, speak on it.
It's so unfortunate. You would think that it's 2022 and like it's like all, female empowerment. But in certain areas it's absolutely is like much better. And in other areas, it's really difficult to be taken seriously sometimes. And it's unfortunate because like as a woman, I have to make sure I dress to a certain standard and I have a certain look going on when I walk into a room to be taken seriously as an executive, right? Whereas I have literally been in rooms with executives that are in flannels and literally flip-flops and everybody respects them. And they're men, and so it's like this weird dichotomy that's like, as a woman, if you want to be taken seriously as like a boss, and it's like, don't show too much cleavage, but you still don't want to like not look sexy. You still want to be a little sexy, and also don't be too assertive. But then if you're not assertive enough, then you're going to get walked over. And so it's like this really weird balance, I think, that I've been having to walk. Like I literally was talking to Davion about this at the last show we were at, because we're traveling. I have a very limited dress code right now. I literally have like a carry-on size suitcase of clothes. And so a lot of it is just like me trying to be comfortable everyday thing. I don't have suits and I don't have like all of my super fancy clothes that are in New York. Right. And so we're at this show and I'm I'm very hands-on. So I'm not just like a manager that's like, oh, let me oversee this, but I'm like really big on the artist development side. So if I agree to manage you, it's because I can see you as an artist. And so I'm going to make sure that whatever you do is in alignment with your brand, right? That's everything, all the way down to how you sound when you're on stage. If it doesn't sound right, I'm going and I'm talking to the engineer and we're going to fix it. So I'm very intentional about the artist and how they're represented. So I was at this show, and so I'm talking with the engineer like, no, the guitar is conflicting with the vocals, and you can't hear this and you can't hear that. And so we're fixing it and we're working on it together. And it's like, I go to sit down with the band and we're all, relaxing before their set, and they all get their food brought out to them, but they didn't bring me any food because I wasn't technically part of the band. And it was like this weird, like, well, why are you here? What's your, like, I don't understand what your job is. And it was like, so I was like, okay, that's it. I'm gonna go change. So I went and changed. I literally went and changed. And I put on like a whole suit, like super fly, I was like, I'm gonna stunt on him. I'm gonna show him, right? So I went and changed, and I swear, I kid you not, I come out and people are coming up to me asking me questions on, where do we place these glasses on the table, and how does this look, and where should we put this chair? And I'm sitting here like literally 30 minutes ago, I was being ignored, acting like I'm just like, the artist's little wife that's just trying to get some free food. And so it was just a very interesting, comparison, just to see the difference, like immediately in the social behavior. As soon as I dressed the part, like how they think a female boss should look, I got the respect. And so, I mean, it's a good and a bad thing, I guess. You dress the part, you dress what you want to be. And at the same time, I think there does need to be leeway as a woman, like the same that there is for a man, that he can show up in like flannels and flip-flops and be taken seriously, So yeah. I
Even
feel
in
like
the music industry, you have to dress the part. Yeah. Even in the music industry, you have to dress the part,
I mean, Drake was going out and renting out, I think, was it Bentleys or Bentley? Yeah, he's like renting out Bentleys just to look the part for his shows, and then going and returning the car the next day. It's a big thing, I mean, rappers do it all the time. They're renting the cars for their videos, but
fake it till you make it, pretty much.
You gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah.
That's how you get the next deal. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you guys mostly do everything like by yourselves in Mob City, or do you have like people that kind of help you out?
So we are definitely a two-man team. Like, it's literally me and Davion doing the bulk of everything, which I think is actually really good. It provides a lot of trust with the client, because the client knows that I'm not just like an account manager, but I'm actually the creative that's also working on the project. So there's this connection that the client has, knowing that their project is in good hands, that I'm not just like, oh, you're just another client on my account list, right? So me and Davion, we basically handle everything. And then there's certain things that we'll outsource depending on how busy we get, And so it kind of goes back to that other conversation that I had about the roster. So, and it also depends on what we need. So like if there's a project, like we were just working on a pitch, I'm under NDA, I can't tell you who it was, but it was a really great company, like a really huge company, right?
Right.
And we're working on a pitch for this new campaign that they have going for women. And we were like, okay, we hear really live, like horns and instrumentation. We hear like an amazing drum line. And like, these are some things that we were hearing. And just based off the access that we had with the studio, we had to outsource and just talk to some musicians that we knew and say, hey, we'll send you a demo. Can you send us a live version of this? So it just depends on like the needs for the project that we have, but we really try to keep it in-house as much as possible, because that's where the quality control is.
Okay. Well, where do you see yourself like a year from now with everything, with yourself personally and with Mob City? Where do you see yourself?
Okay, so where do I see myself with Mob City? In 1 year from now, we have like a whole goals list of like the clients we will have worked with, And so we've already been able to check off some clients. One that hasn't been checked off yet is Nike. But we're so close because we literally keep getting into talks with them. It's so crazy. Like we end up like, in the same email chains with Nike and the NBA consistently. And so we're like, we're going to land. It's going to happen.
Some big names.
That's some big names.
Yeah, no, I know.
Can we get a LeBron interview or something?
Vanessa KD interview?
Yeah.
Trust me.
Tony Snell, we'll take Tony Snell.
Tony Snell's nasty. That's nasty. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I think, we've had some really big names that I can tell you. We've been able to do some work for Coca-Cola. Okay. We've done a few stuff for KFC and for Domino's. We did stuff for Starbucks and Spotify. We have like a whole list.
Include like voiceovers and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. So voiceovers and sound design and like things like that. Yeah.
What's the hardest part about trying to get in touch with these like bigger companies? Like, what's the hardest part about networking with them and getting into their like email chains or DMs or getting their attention?
Yeah,
everything. Okay, no, but honestly, there's like, I don't know. Some people don't believe in luck, right? I don't know if I would call it luck, but my dad had a really great definition for luck, which I'm sure it's not his definition, but it's something that he taught me. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? So that mentality has really helped me in terms of like not being idle. So like when it comes to pitching to these huge people that are getting pitches, 24 times, 100 times a day, and they're flooded with projects that they're working on. And it's just not like an easy thing to even get their attention. The hardest part, I would say, is like figuring out how to make yourself stand out from all of the other businesses that are trying to get their business. So it's kind of a balance, because people a lot of people have like a BS detector, so it's like you can tell if somebody's like trying to butter you up and trying to get something from you, and you can also tell when they're really being genuine with you as a real person. And what I've seen as time goes on, especially with the working market is shifting, right? We're starting to get the oldest Gen Zs are starting to come into the workforce, and so with Gen Z coming into the workforce comes a lack and like a very little acceptance and tolerance for BS and corporate garbage, right? So what I've been seeing as time goes on is this need to make yourself a human when you're talking to people. It's like so annoying. And I will say this also because we get pitched to all the time. So I'll get pitches from different artists that want me to manage them. And I'll get pitches from people who want to be on the roster for what we're doing. And it's like makes your skin crawl when you get something from somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I want to see, how we can provide, how, or it's like, I forgot how people say it, but it's like, I want to be able to see how I can benefit you or provide some expertise for you. Or I don't remember how like the right way to say it, but it's like a very robotic way of trying to make yourself look professional and
trying to update their Indeed resume.
Yeah. And you can tell that they got it off of a YouTube video that was telling them how to write a proper email. And it's like, that's important. You do need to have some type of business etiquette, but what's the most important is being a human. Right. Like that is the most important thing. Like I'm going to tell you a funny story. So Davion, we were pitching out to get him an agent as a voiceover artist, and we were with them for I think it was like almost a year or something. And he's laughing because he knows this story. So we were pitching out to try to get him an agent, right? And so we pitched out to the head of this one particular company, this one agency, and Davion, what was it? Was it a test email or something?
No, I was emailing. I was supposed to put my name, but when I started, I put Big Daddy, just playing around. But I was.
Oh yeah, okay. So what happened is he was putting in this email to pitch, and he decided it would be funny to put Big Daddy as a joke, and he was like, instead of his name, right? And he was like, oh, I'll correct it later. But he forgot to fix the email before he sent it out. And this is our first time, like,
That's crazy.
ever speaking to these people.
Did they respond?
Yeah, they responded and they signed him. And so this is what I wanted to say. It's like, so this is what I wanted to say. Business etiquette is important, but there's a lack of charisma and personability a lot of times that people forget. Like, you need to be able to connect with people. That is the most important thing. I will tell you 10 times out of 10, when I've been on the set and TV and stuff like that, somebody, if they have to choose between some random, like, really great resume or this person that they know really well that can do the job, they're going to pick the person that they know really well, right? Because there's a level of trust there that they have. And it's a thing. And also, I don't know how many people know this, but there's a lot of times where big companies and labels will post a position that they're looking for. But that's just for the sake of, like, the law. Like, you have to publicly post a new position, you know, but they usually already have somebody else that's going to already take the place. And so that's kind of an inside knowledge to, like, the way that it works when it comes to, like, applying for a position. They most of the time already have somebody that they already want to take your position, because they know this person and they respect this person. They built, you know, repertoire, and it was genuine relationship. And so that whole situation with Davion, it was the #1 voiceover agency in New York. Okay. And he sent this email that was just like the great email, but the way he signed it was ridiculous. Right. And they actually were able to get on a phone call and they were laughing about this mistake. And it kind of helped break the ice in a way. And so I'm not going to sit here and say, hey guys, you should sign your email. It's really stupid. I'm not going to say that, but I will say that there is a level of connection that happens with people, and they will, most of the time, they will choose the person that they connected with over the person who had really good business lingo. Yeah. So yeah, the hardest part about getting a client is being able to weigh, you know, like, the best way to introduce yourself in a way that feels like a real person and makes them feel like they actually are interested in working with you, and not just like another robotic, I'm trying to get your business pitch. Yeah.
Okay.
Be yourself, Hedda. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, be your damn self. Shit.
Yeah, be yourself. And honestly, like, right now, there's this thing circulating on emails where, like, they'll sign their name and the website and everything. And at the very end of the website, at the very end of the email signature, it'll say, truly human notice. Have you guys gotten emails like that yet?
No. You said truly human notice?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that we've been working with where we'll get emails, and it's, you know, people from Sony and people from different places like that, where we'll get an email that says truly human notice. I'm responding to this email at a time that's convenient for me, and I only expect you to respond at a time that's convenient for you. And that's something that I would not have seen even 10 years ago on an email, but 5 years ago. But the workplace is constantly changing because of this new wave of generation that's coming in. That's like, we care about people first. And so I think the more authentic you become, the more success will follow, you know? Yeah. And that's what we've been sticking true to at our company.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. I learned a lot personally. Definitely. Knew the difference between the agent and the manager. I did not know that. So thank you again.
Yes, I'm
for joining, taking the time to do this.
Where can the people find you, get in touch with you on social media? You want to just give a quick plug? Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really have like a business social media yet. I just have my website, and we do things through emails. Really, we're like a business to business company, so it's not like as, I guess it's still important to have a social media. I think I'm just kind of that's how I am about social media. I'm like, I know I need to stop procrastinating, but so far I have my kind of like my personal social media, and it's Mrs. Grayson. That's my Instagram. And then Alex, you have my Twitter, right?
Yeah, I have your Twitter. You don't have Instagram or anything?
Oh, that's my Instagram. It's Mrs. Grayson.
And then what's you guys' website again? The
MobCityUniverse.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. And on there, it kind of, oh, great. On on the website, it has a list of all of our services, a little bit of a breakdown of what we do. And you can also see the portfolio of who we've worked with, which I have to update soon, but you can get a little bit briefer of an understanding there. And we're always open to like artists and musicians and session players. Like if you feel like you've got something that's very unique or you've got a really great sound, like we're always open to pitches to be added to the roster. So
I will definitely be contacting you. Once I drop my EP, I will definitely be contacting you. I got some big names. Don't want to spoil it, but I'll definitely be
Oh, cool. That's exciting. I can't wait.
Shout out to y'all, man. Looks like you guys are doing your thing for real.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not been easy, but it's worth it for sure.
Facts. Again, thank you so much for coming. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This was so fun. Thank you guys again.
You're welcome.